So welcome to the second edition of the workshop series. The second in a series of Scotch whiskies which we are launching in the years to come while we await the completion of our single malt project. Each of the whiskies represents a facet of whisky making that we find interesting, and in this particular case it's fermentation that we're talking about. Very short fermentation whisky made with very long fermentation whisky, a splash of grain made entirely here at the Borders Distillery, and we're thrilled that it's coming out in October this year. What's interesting about where we are in the Scottish Borders is that we're in the middle of one of the prime barley growing areas of Scotland. We have a cooperative arrangement with 12 farmers and our maltster, all of us based in the Borders, and it involves giving long-term security to farmers to grow barley. It involves dealing with our new responsibilities around Scope 3 emissions, and it's very important for us as a business that we are close to our farming community. This is essentially a farming part of Scotland, and we are part of that ecosystem. The Borders Growers and Distillers is part of a slightly bigger picture. So when we arrived here in Hawick, attracted by the fact that we were the first in the Borders, attracted by it's a manufacturing town and therefore we could find great people, we bought an old building that had been abandoned several years ago, and we brought it back to life. We put another 100 years of life in it. And the ethos at the time was that if you were from Hawick and you lived in Hawick all your life, you could walk past this building and not know that we changed it into a distillery. And I think we've largely succeeded. And we get a lot of benefit from that, which feeds into our thinking about our sense of where we are. Embedded carbon, restoration, revitalisation, all these. And it's a really core part of our sort of business. We've launched the Workshop series as a blended whisky. Okay, so we're intrigued by the possibilities of what some people have called in the market a single blend as a whisky idea. We're really interested in the reactions to our new approach to the put-up of the bottle, the iconography, the use of black and white, that we're trying to reflect the culture of the town we operate in. And each one is a limited edition, never be done again. Each one stands in its own right, but we hope that over time people will see that we're establishing our credentials as a distiller. That's really what we're all about. We've got a whisky which has a splash of grain, entirely produced here from rye. It has whisky made with extremely short fermentation times, married with whiskies that are extremely long fermentation times. Both whiskies were then matured in identical first fill barrels for an identical amount of time, vatted together, left to vat for a long time so they go through this marrying process, and then bottled. And what's interesting, apart from the lovely colour, is that when you nose this whisky, obviously putting some water in it first to get the full aromas, what's interesting about it is you can pick up the contrast between the two whiskies. One is you've got this combination of quite green gooseberry type stuff going on, and then at the back end you've got all this figgy sort of toffee type notes from the very long fermentation. A bit like Workshop Series 1, it retains an essential character of being estery, highly fruit driven, which is what we try and make here all the time. And it's absolutely delicious. Cheers. It's actually not bad.